What's up, millennials? Welcome to part 2 of this little series about investing for beginners. So hopefully by now you've already seen part 1 of this little series, and hopefully you also know how to track your income and your expenses. And I also hope that you've already found some ways to raise your income and lower your expenses at the same time, so that in this way you have some extra money left over at the end of the month. And if that's not the case, then actually in this video I'm going to show you a little life hack that you could use, and that could be very helpful to you to actually save some more money. And we're also going to be talking about two major things that you need to take into account before you actually invest your hard-earned money. Alright, so actually let's start with the life hack, alright? The life hack is called Parkinson's Law. That sounds a little bit weird maybe, and you might not know exactly what that means, but the definition of Parkinson's Law is that the work expands to fill the time available for its completion. What the heck does that mean? Well, let's think back about the moment when you were in high school or university, or maybe you're still in high school or university, and the teacher gave you an essay exercise, okay? Teacher says, okay, here you go, you have 1 week to complete an essay. You have to write an essay of about, let's say, 2,000 words, and you have 1 week from now until next week. So what did you do in those situations? Did you start writing the very first day? Or did you take your time and start writing way later that week? If you had 7 days to complete, for example, let's say it's Monday, right? Teacher tells you, okay, you have an essay, you need to write 2,000 words in 1 week. Next week, Monday, you have to deliver it. Well, on that Monday, you're probably not going to do anything, right? On Tuesday, maybe you're like, well, yeah, maybe I need to start thinking a little bit about it. Wednesday comes and you're like, oh shit, well, I still got like a few days, like 5 days left, so I don't really need to start writing now. Maybe on Thursday you do some research, you actually start thinking about it. Friday, maybe you write down a few letters. Saturday, you're actually thinking, oh, I only have 2 days left, right? What do I do? And then you actually start writing. And on Sunday, usually the very last day before you need to turn in that essay of 2,000 words, you write 1,999 words on that very last day, right? So I actually believe that Parkinson's Law can also be applied to your money. A few days ago, 2 days ago, for the first video of this series, I was going through my income and expenses from 8 years ago. And what I found was that I wasn't earning a lot of money, but I wasn't spending a lot of money either. If I was looking at my rent back then, it was only 275 euros. Right now I'm paying almost 1,000 euros, so it has been tripling more than that in about 8 years' time. Also, what has happened to, for example, expenses like my groceries, you could see a major increase as well. 8 years ago, I maybe spent like 100 euros a month or maybe 150, but right now it's an average of about 300 euros a month. So what happens is that the more your income rises, the more your expenses rise as well. If you have more money to spend, you can spend it more on a rent for a bigger apartment, or you can go out to restaurants more times a week, things like that. So how can you use that to your advantage? How can you use the Parkinson's Law in your advantage? Well, I basically think there are two ways to accomplish that. The first way is to take a part of your income and simply put it aside and do not touch it, okay? For example, let's say your income is about 2,500 euros a month, all right? And what you decide is you take 200 euros apart, you put it somewhere, I don't know, in the bank or wherever you want to put it, and you take the rest of the money, so 2,300 euros, to live your life as you would normally. So that 200 euros is simply going to be put aside, you're not going to touch it. And that way, I believe that you're actually kind of conditioning yourself to spend less money overall. And if it turns out that you can live easily with 2,300, well, go to 2,100 or go to 2,000. Keep raising that amount of money that you put aside and do not use that money for your normal expenses. So basically what I'm trying to say is that with the Parkinson's Law, the less money you think you have, the less you're going to spend, and also the more money you're going to be left over with at the end of the month. So the second way you can take advantage of Parkinson's law is that you put limits on your expenses. So let's say, for example, that you normally buy groceries for about 300 euros a month, okay? What you can do is simply say, okay, next month what I'm going to do is I'm going to limit that amount of money to 250 euros or even 200 euros. And then you take that 50 euros or that 100 euros that you're left with and you put it aside and you do not touch it just yet. So when you have taken advantage of Parkinson's law that way and actually have some extra money left over at the end of the month, should you invest it right away? Well, I don't think so. I think what is very important to look at first is your financial buffer. What is that? Well, ask yourself the question, what happens if tomorrow I lose my job and I don't have any income? Would I still be able to pay my rent, my utility bills, my groceries? For how long would I be able to pay all those things? Would it be for just a few weeks or 1 month or a few months? How big is your financial buffer? Because that is exactly what it means. The financial buffer is basically how many months or how many weeks or simply how much time you're able to live on the money that you currently have and you don't actually need for any other things. So why would you need a financial buffer at all? Well, just look at a corona crisis, right? A lot of people were simply kicked out of their job and didn't have any income for months. Right? And they still needed to pay for their rent and their groceries, etc. What can also happen is that you have unforeseen expenses. Like, for example, when your dishwasher breaks down, or you need a new computer, or you need a new phone. Those are all expenses that you didn't really expect beforehand, but they simply happen, and at some point you do need money for those things. So let's take a look at a very simple example to see how we can actually calculate how big our financial buffer needs to be. So let's say, for example, we need to pay for rent, right? For rent, we're gonna put like what, 1,000 euros? Let's put 1,000 euros for now. Well, we also need to pay for our utility bills. Utility bills, well, let's say those are about 200 euros. We also need some money for groceries, of course. Let's say those are 300 euros. Insurance, let's put another 200 euros. And let's say, well, we have some other expenses that we aren't really going to clarify here, which are another 300 euros. So once you have all these expenses, what you simply do is you put them all together, you sum it up, and in this case, we can see that we would have a total amount of expenses of 2,000 euros a month. So now we know that to live 1 month, we need 2,000 euros. And with regards to the financial buffer, what I usually tell people is that they kind of need a financial buffer for at least 3 months, but preferably 6 months, right? So 1 month is 2,000, so 3 months, well, that would be simply 6,000, right? 3 times 2 would be 6,000. And 6 months, of course, would be 12,000 euros. So this way you can easily calculate how large your financial buffer should more or less be. 3 months to 6 months. So that's the very first thing that you need to take into account before you start investing. And the second thing would be short-term expenses. What I mean with that is, well, investing is for the long term, right? Investing is something you do with money that you don't need in the short term. So what are short-term expenses? Well, these are things like clothes, a new car, maybe a house, all the money that you need within a few months or a few years even. So you would need to think about those expenses, right? Are you going to need any clothes within a few weeks? Are you going to go on a trip, for example, in a few months' time? Does your car need any repairs soon? Are you saving up for a house maybe that you might need to pay a mortgage for and need money for that as well? think about all those things, all those short-term expenses that you need money for within weeks, months, years. So that's it. Use the Parkinson's law to your advantage. Make sure that you have a financial buffer of at least 3 months, but preferably 6. And also make sure that you have enough money for your short-term expenses. And after you've done that, we can finally start talking about using the money that you have left over at the end of the month. And that is something we are going to do in the next video. Alright, see ya!